when things are extra busy, it's an even greater requirement. So instead of putting off taking care of yourself, no, now's actually when it's more important to take care of yourself. And I'm talking really about honoring yourself in the present moment. Give yourself that gift this holiday season. No one's going to remember the gifts they got this year. I mean, maybe some will, but they're not going to remember them as deeply as the connection that you create with that person. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Hello, my friends. Happy holidays and welcome back to the Business of Happiness. I am your host, Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. This season is going to be a great season, and completing 2025 is going to be really a moment of reflection on a great year. And what we really need to do is be present for right now, because we all know when the holidays are here, there is so much being asked of us that it becomes this whirlwind of stress and obligation and to-dos and busyness that we miss out on the most precious moments. And that is exactly what we're talking about today. How to capture the magic of the season, how to capture the magic of the present moment in amongst all the responsibility, in amongst all the expectations, and also the opportunities. How do we find that presence and that gift of magic that we once knew at this beautiful time of year? Because this time of year holds a lot of promise. There's so many moments for us to really capture. And I was reminded of that this weekend. We had a busy week last week, and the week suddenly changed. We didn't anticipate a major new shift in our world. It's so funny. In my last episode, I was talking about what shifts and changes have you gone through this week? Well, I just went through another massive one. I had no idea that within that same week of recording that podcast episode, I would be shifting again in the dynamics of my family. And we got a new puppy. While he's not a puppy anymore, he's 18 months old, and he's a new addition to our family. We already have 2 dogs. We were not expecting to have a third, and we are helping my cousin out. She is moving to Australia and needed a home for this sweet boy. So literally within 48 hours, we had another dog in the mix. And so our routine shifted this weekend. We had a couple of ideas of what the weekend would look like, and all of that was thrown out the door in amongst all the Christmassy preparations and the expectations. We suddenly had a new dog that was needing a lot of attention, a lot of support in terms of just transitioning into this home and with my other dogs and with my family. So all day Saturday and most of the day Sunday, we didn't do what we thought we were going to get done. So what we found out on Sunday was Killian and I were kind of rushing through a couple of obligations that we thought we'd be able to take our time with. And one of them was buying a Christmas tree. Now, in the past, every year, as long as I can remember, definitely for as long as my children were around. So let's see, Cassie's turning 19. So for at least 18 years, we've been going and cutting down a Christmas tree. And it's a beautiful experience. And we take hot chocolate, although my kids reminded me, as maybe yours do, that they look back on it and remember crying and cold. And their memories were not as fond as the picture we have painted in our memories. However, this year, my 2 oldest are at college. When they were home for Thanksgiving, everyone was a little bit sick, so no one felt like going and cutting down a Christmas tree. So we found ourselves yesterday picking up a Christmas tree from our local nursery. Killian and I, we were squeezing it in before Nula's volleyball practice and kind of rushing through the motions just to get a tree. So we laid down that expectation of needing to cut down a tree very appropriately, even though that magical moment was sad to not experience this year and we were rushing through. And when we were at the nursery, I was just on a mission, going through the motions because feeling a little bit of pressure from having missed out on a few hours of the weekend and completing a few tasks. That was when Killian said to me, "Oh, Tarryn, here's a beautiful owl ornament. I know you love owl ornaments so much. Let's get this owl ornament." And I burst into tears. In that moment, I realized that I was rushing through so much in my to-do list, trying to get ahead of the week, trying to squeeze things in, feeling a little pressured from having lost some time, that I was missing the magic of being there with my husband, of buying a tree with Killian. I had, somewhere in the back of my mind, I think I decided this task wasn't going to be magical. There was nothing to be present for. We were just going to go, get a tree, move on, do the next thing, get to volleyball. And when Killian said to me, "I know you love owls. Look at this lovely owl ornament. Shall we get this owl ornament?" Spoiler alert, we didn't get the owl ornament. That's not the point. The point was, it was such a loving, tender thing for him to say in that moment. It was a moment when I realized the depth of his love for me. It was a moment when I realized how the two of us get to have this special moment. And if we're rushing through, we miss out on what is actually here right now. And I was crying tears of joy and gratitude because I was brought to a moment of stillness in recognizing the precious realization I had in that moment. In that moment, I saw him. I saw the magnificence of what we have. I saw the two of us creating a life together, the two of us navigating all these shifts and changes. He was a superhero around welcoming my cousin's dog. And Killian didn't always grow up with the same dog experience as I do of them being in a family. So this has been a journey for him. But here he was able to just be present and see what was around him. I hadn't even noticed the owls. And he was able to just be present in that moment and slow down enough to appreciate the magic. And in that moment, so was I. I think that this time of year can run past us very quickly. In addition to being business owners, many of you, there's end of the year expectations. Your financial advisor, your accountant wants certain things from you. So that takes time. And we don't always allot that time. I mean, raise your hand. I know, no, I can't see your hands, but raise your hand if you set aside extra time that you block out from your calendar, to do end of year getting financial things together. No. And by the way, maybe that's a really good idea. I'm thinking that right now to myself. But imagine if you had a day blocked off to just close up all the financial things at the end of the year, pay all the bills, get all your numbers settled, get your accountant what he or she needs. If you have an S Corp, close out all the earnings in that account, whatever you need to do. And yet we don't. We don't set aside that time. So what happens? It needs getting squeezed in. In fact, personally, I never used to block out time in my calendar to wrap gifts. What did I think? I mean, I was just squeezing it in. I didn't block out time even necessarily to go shopping, especially in this digital age. I thought I'll just do it at night between, bedtime and cooking and cleaning. And notice how those little moments where we squeeze things in. Maybe you blocked out time for your staff party or to go to a spouse's work party. And did you ever think to block out time to go, did you need new shoes or new nylons? Does anyone wear nylons anymore? You know what I'm talking about, that last minute where you realize, oh my gosh, I need to have my nails done. Or, oh my gosh, I didn't have my hair appointment. And we squeeze things in. Not to mention breakfast with Santa and gingerbread house making and all the additional little moments that we feel so obligated to provide to our kids. And I think this is especially true for high achieving women, dentists, business owners, healthcare providers, who there's a little part of us that feels stressed out and guilty about the whole rest of the year that we haven't been super present as moms. So we try to make up for it during the Christmas time, or we try to make this the most magical Christmas ever. And now throw in, oh my gosh, I'm stressing everyone out, the extra concerts and end of season parties that the kids are all involved in. There's a lot on our plates. And that busyness seems to overtake the season. And if you're anything like me in the past, I used to wake up on January 1st or not even January 1st, it perpetuated beyond that, say January 4th, exhausted and depleted. And the family would have come and gone for Christmas. It was like a whirlwind. Maybe it was extra work for you. Maybe you felt like you were running a Airbnb, washing and cleaning and cooking and cleaning. It's exhausting. And we miss out on the most magical moments. And this is difficult for us because we want to create those experiences. We want to make more magic. And we also want to do our very best. And because the additional tasks quadruple, there's so many new invitations and expectations. There are also moments we feel like we can't say no. Can you just bring an extra thing to this thing? Will you please bake brownies for the fair? And when you say yes, but your body is screaming no, I want you to just recognize the energetic weight that places on you. The additional ask and the exhaustion energetically. Now, why we don't talk about energy more, I do not know, because you are very clear what that looks like. And when we are energetically depleted, our bodies are in fight or flight. That is truth. Your body goes into, let me protect and save myself. And that's when we start getting snippy and snappy and yell at our kids to get out the door because we're going to be late for breakfast with Santa, which defeats the entire purpose. And I think that's what my kids were reflecting to me about past years of going and cutting down the tree. What a beautiful metaphor. Here, Killian and I were trying to create this whole experience and this childhood core memory of going out into the woods and cutting down trees and then sipping hot cocoa in the car on the way home. And my kids remember the fighting, the getting everyone in the car, the anger, the come on guys, let's keep going, the arguing over which tree. We missed the point. We had great intention of creating magical moments, but we missed the mark because of the busyness. And we forgot to slow down and be present. Energetically, it matters. So how do we do this? How do we find the magic in the moment? How do we not speed through the season and miss out on that possibly last Christmas with grandma, or possibly last Christmas with your friend? Nothing is promised. Tomorrow is not promised to any of us. And we never know when there will be that last moment. And not that there needs to be a last moment. There's a last moment of Leaf when he was 17. I mean, that doesn't exist anymore. You know, those moments are so precious. And I think back to that day yesterday at the nursery with my husband, and I think, gosh, if I'd missed that sweet moment, that moment when he turned to me with that owl, I mean, I can't quite explain how enormous that was for me. That is now a memory I will have forever. It came out of nowhere. But thank God I was present for it, because it meant the world. It means so much more than any gift he can give me on Christmas morning or any big escapade that we try to create for ourselves. And the only difference was my ability to be present in the moment. So how do we do that? I'm going to invite you to start looking at it as a practice. That's all. There's no magical on-off switch of now I'm not present, now I'm present. It's a daily practice and it takes intention. And so maybe it's a little practice of, you know what, I'm about to go into this Christmas party. I'm just going to be present. It does require putting down the need for perfectionism. It requires the need for letting go of what other people think of you. Because when you're at that Christmas party, you're so worried about, am I wearing the right thing? Am I saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? What are other people thinking of me? It creates an impossibility to be present, right? We're so stuck in worry about other people. And there's a really interesting Zen teaching, and I've tried to find who I can give credit to, but it really is anonymous, but it's from the Zen tradition. It says, you should sit in meditation for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should sit for an hour. And this is an important saying, whether or not you meditate. As you all know, for me, this is a non-negotiable on a daily basis. That's a part of my practice of slowing down. Let's just say you don't meditate. Notice that it's asking of you to slow down. Let's put it that way. Let's change the phrase a little bit. You should slow down for 20 minutes every day. Unless you're too busy, then you should slow down for an hour. And I love this saying because I think at this time of the year, we can say, oh, I'll slow down at the end of the season. I'll slow down after Christmas. Everything's too busy right now. I'll take care of myself when. And that is how we miss the moment. Because when your body is in fight or flight, when you're busying your way through, when you're worrying your way through, worrying about what other people think of you, worrying about expectations, what happens? Your body goes into fight or flight. And biologically, that means you cannot be present. And that's when the season feels empty. It feels like we missed the mark. Like, I spent so much money, I spent so much effort, and I just didn't feel the magic of the season. And what it takes literally and for free is slowing down. And that slowing down is a practice. It is. It's a practice. It's a daily intention and a daily practice. And it doesn't have to take an hour, like that phrase says. That's just referring to how when things are extra busy, it's an even greater requirement. Let's put it that way. It's a greater necessity. So instead of putting off taking care of yourself, now's actually when it's more important to take care of yourself. And I'm talking really about honoring yourself in the present moment. So what would that look like for you? Maybe it looks like just having the intention. Today, I'm going to be really present with my patients. I know this is true for sure. When we get to this time of the season, it's just like rush through the appointments, get them done, get them done, get them done. Let's just keep going. Especially those half days. I don't know if you've noticed, they fly by because you're just trying to get out the door. You're already thinking about your responsibilities when you get home at 2:00 because you've canceled patients at 1. You know what I'm talking about. You've all been there. But what if we get to slow ourselves down just to be present? And here's the thing, I promise you it doesn't take more time. That's the fallacy. I think that's one of the fears we have. If I slow down, I won't have time to do everything, but it's the opposite. And this is where it takes a little bit of trust and faith and then experience to validate that new belief. When we slow down, we actually create more time. What? When we slow down, we actually create more time. That moment in the nursery yesterday felt like an hour. I will remember it as an hour because I was fully present. And I can imagine that scenario looking completely different. I can imagine me flying through, getting things done, rushing to the register, and it may be taking longer. Because here's the really other interesting thing is when we're in fight or flight, we actually make mistakes. Multitasking is not more efficient. It actually creates more mistakes. And we end up doing more to compensate for what we just undid by multitasking, by rushing, by busying. So what does slowing down look like for you? Maybe it looks like when you arrive somewhere, just sitting in the car and taking 3 deep, slow, intentional breaths and calming your body down before you walk into that next experience, whether it's breakfast with Santa or going to work or going shopping. Can even shopping be enjoyable? And I know you're probably laughing if you love shopping. I do not. So let's use that as a metaphor for something you don't like to do. Can even that thing be enjoyable? It can, if you can slow down and be present. I mean, that really is the magic. And definitely as dentists and doctors, we've been trained in the opposite, especially in our day-to-day practice. I mean, our days are valued by the minute. We are so structured. We pride ourselves on being on time for our patients, so we rush through constantly. And it really is a practice to do the opposite. But imagine all those precious moments with your patients during this season. Imagine giving them that gift, just being fully present. And let's go back to the energetic impact. That moment means everything. Think about if you're working with children. I know in ortho, that used to always tug at my heartstrings when I knew that 99% of the kids I treated were in families that were so busy doing all the time that they might not have had a moment of presence with that kid that day. And for me to be that presence for that kid that day, even for 30 seconds, meant the world to me. When I realized this might be the only interaction this child gets of full presence from an adult. Not as one of 30 students in a classroom or one of 4 kids in a family or another to-do, but literally giving her my attention during Christmas, the Christmas season, during the holiday rush, just for 30 seconds. Imagine the fulfillment you could experience if you could put aside all the other concerns and worries in that appointment. Or even when you're sitting down having a regular Tuesday night dinner with your family. And for a moment, put aside all the other to-dos and be fully present. And it isn't, like I said, it isn't a light switch on or off. It is a practice. So that practice happens not just at the dinner table, it happens in the car. It happens in recognizing and paying attention to your body when you're feeling that little bit of a rush. And sometimes that's what it can feel like. It can feel like an adrenaline surge that feels kind of exciting, right? Like, I'm on a little bit of a roll here, let's go. And we all know that feeling of checking off boxes, here we go. But know that on the other side of that is a crash. And know that in that moment, you're missing out on the presence with another human being. I'm going to remind you of that longest running happiness study out of Harvard, where they looked for over 85 years now, thousands and thousands of people in this study. And they evaluated socioeconomic status and health, your body health, and the way you eat, and the number of hours you sleep, and your religious preference, and your education level, and your gender. And they looked at all of these different components, and they're still adding components, and they're trying to see what is it? What is the one statistically significant variable that impacts happiness the most? And you know what it is? Deep connecting relationships. That's it. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you eat, doesn't matter how much you weigh, doesn't matter your education level, doesn't matter your financial status, how much money you have in the bank, or on the books, which sometimes is not the same thing. It doesn't matter. What matters when it comes to true, lasting happiness is the depth and connectivity of relationships with other human beings. Doesn't matter if you're single, doesn't matter if you're married, doesn't matter if you have kids, doesn't matter if you have family. It's relationships that matter to you and the depth and the connectivity of them. Now imagine rushing through your whole life and missing out on that gem. Imagine you get to treat patients all day long and missing out on that opportunity of connection. Give yourself that gift this holiday season. The truth is that no one's going to remember the gifts they got this year. I mean, maybe some will, but they're not going to remember them as deeply as the connection that you create with that person. No one's going to remember the meal you made or the decorations you put up for Christmas. I mean, maybe they will, but what matters so much more is how you made them feel, and that is the connection that requires presence. And let that be a gift for you, not just for the people around you. You deserve that. You deserve to feel the fullness of this season. So give yourself permission to let go of that perfectionism, the need to get everything done. Who cares anyway? But how much presence can you allow? And those moments can happen when you least expect them, if you are willing, and if you can give your body permission to slow down in that moment. Sending you all so much love this holiday season, giving you permission to give yourself that gift. Because when you feel good, that, my friend, is when you truly can do good in this world. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.